Duel at Diablo wasn't just another cowboy movie. It was a powder keg wrapped in leather, a story of survival, danger, and raw human conflict. Sydney Poitier refused to fire a gun. The script was rewritten in the desert. One scene was so brutal the studio tried to bury it. Stunt disasters nearly shut down production. And wait for the bonus fact, a stunt went so wrong it changed Hollywood's safety rules forever. This is the untold story behind Duel at Diablo, the western that dared to shock, offend, and redefine an entire genre. Before stepping onto the desert set of Duel at Diablo, Sydney Poitier laid down an unyielding condition: no romantic subplot. Not with a white actress. Not with anyone. The year was 1966, and Poitier had just made history as the first black actor to win an Academy Award for Best Actor. He was at the pinnacle of both fame and scrutiny. Every choice carried weight, one misstep could unravel everything he had fought for. The studio, seeking to humanize the character, insisted on a love interest. They argued it would give the story heart, soften the narrative, make audiences connect. Poitier would have none of it. He had seen the fallout of interracial romance on screen, the boycotts, the censorship, the moral outrage in certain states. One wrong scene could shutter theaters, spark controversy, and tarnish both his name and the film. Poitier became not a lover, but a warrior, a scout, a man with a mission, hardened by circumstance, untouchable by sentimentality. His insistence preserved the integrity of the story and the film's chance at survival. Every line he delivered, every glance in the harsh desert sun, reflected a character defined by resolve, not romance. Sometimes survival, on or off screen, demands knowing exactly where the line is, and refusing to cross it. In Duel at Diablo, Poitier didn't just act, he set the moral compass of the film, proving that courage sometimes begins before the cameras even roll. The role of Jess Remberg wasn't always destined for James Garner. First in line was Lee Marvin, the quintessential tough guy, chosen for his raw edge and willingness to embrace rage. But Marvin had already committed to the professionals. Next, the studio turned to Steve McQueen, the king of cool, who read the script and liked the action, but hated the politics. He deemed the film too heavy-handed on race and violence and walked away. That left James Garner, a man known more for charm than menace, drama tempered with wit rather than danger. Director Ralph Nelson was skeptical. Could a man so likable convincingly play a character with nothing left to lose? Garner understood the stakes and arrived at the first meeting in dusty boots, sunburned from the desert, with a stare that could freeze a man in place. In that instant, Nelson's doubts evaporated. Garner wasn't just auditioning, he was staking a claim, promising to inhabit every dangerous inch of Jess Remberg's world. By the time cameras rolled, he had become the embodiment of vulnerability, danger, and raw emotion. What the studio miscast twice, fate corrected on the third try. Garner's performance proved that charm could coexist with menace, wit could coexist with desperation, and a man could be lovable yet deadly when stripped of everything but survival instinct. Jess Remberg didn't need a legend, he needed a human being pushed to the edge, and Garner delivered, perfectly. The opening scene of Duel at Diablo nearly ended the movie before it began. Nelson's vision was stark, a white woman, bloodied and disoriented, wandering through the desert while carrying a child, no music, no explanation, just raw desperation. It was haunting, immediate, and morally unflinching. The studio panicked. Executives called it too dark, too slow, too confusing. Test audiences would walk out. They threatened to replace Nelson, insisting the sequence be softened or cut entirely. Nelson wasn't budging. He bluffed, if they wanted him to leave, he would walk, and Sydney Poitier would walk with him. The studio blinked, agreeing to a compromise, a voiceover would explain what was happening. But once Nelson entered the editing room, he quietly removed the narration. The scene remained silent, stark, and unrelenting. By the final screening, it was too late to change anything. The result was unforgettable. That opening didn't just introduce the story, it announced the tone of the entire film. Harsh, relentless, morally ambiguous, viewers were thrust into a world where survival demanded every ounce of courage. The silence, the heat, the desperation became characters themselves. Nelson's gamble paid off. That haunting beginning set the stakes, framed the brutal reality of the narrative, and instantly made audiences uncomfortable in the way the film intended. Sometimes, breaking the rules creates art that refuses to be ignored. Bill Travers was cast as Willard Grange, the cowardly supply officer whose moral failings haunt him throughout the story. On paper, it was a meaty, complex role, tragic, layered, and emotionally taxing. In practice, Travers despised it. He had taken the part at the urging of his wife, Virginia McKenna, believing it would benefit his career. From the first day of filming, clashes with director Ralph Nelson were inevitable. Travers wanted to soften Grange, give him backbone, justify his cowardice. Nelson demanded discomfort. The audience had to squirm. Between takes, Travers rewrote lines, attempting to inject sympathy into his character. Nelson restored the original dialogue, insisting the moral tension remain intact. The conflicts were intense, and Sydney Poitier had to step in as a mediator, pulling the two men aside to cool things down. Yet, the tension never fully dissipated. And that friction translated on screen. Travers's Grange exuded nervous energy, desperation, and palpable guilt. His discomfort was authentic, not acting, it was survival in a hostile environment captured on camera. The result was a performance that resonated precisely because it was uncomfortable. Grange became a painfully human study of cowardice, a man trapped by his own failings, a character whose moral weakness drove the story forward. Audiences felt it in every glance, every twitch, every hesitation. Travers's personal struggle amplified the film's realism, proving that sometimes the actor's discomfort can become the most compelling part of the narrative. The Apache attack sequence nearly became a disaster. Horses spooked, stunt riders veered off course, and one charged straight toward the camera crew. In less than 10 seconds, James Garner grabbed the rein, stopping the horse and preventing injury. The chaos, unplanned and raw, was captured on film, giving audiences a glimpse of genuine panic. Nelson recognized its value immediately, authenticity trumped rehearsed perfection. Sydney Poitier refused a stunt double, insisting on performing every dangerous sequence himself. He rode full speed through narrow canyons, dove from horses, and engaged in hand-to-hand combat without pads or wires. Beyond performance, Poitier's insistence was a matter of dignity. Hollywood lacked black stunt performers, and he would not allow a white double to stand in for him. Every bruise, every cut, every fall was his own. The Moab, Utah shoot added another layer of brutality. Temperatures soared past 110 degrees. Crew members collapsed from heat exhaustion, and actors lost significant weight during filming. Garner joked about losing 15 pounds and skipping hot meals for 6 weeks, while Poitier called it the most physically demanding role of his career. The desert became more than a backdrop, it was a crucible. Scenes weren't just shot, they were survived. Every drop of sweat, every strained breath, every flinch in fear heightened the realism. Audiences could feel the heat, the danger, the relentless tension. What could have been a staged Western sequence became a visceral, immersive testament to survival. One of Duel at Diablo's most intense sequences occurs when Jess Rembert confronts a racist cavalry officer. There are no punches thrown, no cinematic heroics to soften the moment. Just two men standing in the dirt, exchanging raw, ugly dialogue. The studio feared the scene was too confrontational, too political, demanding Nelson reshoot with more action or less talk. He refused. The film's mission was discomfort, not spectacle. Racism wasn't a backdrop, it was alive, personal, and poisonous. The tension in this scene lingered in theaters because audiences couldn't ignore it. Parallel to the confrontations, the musical score nearly didn't exist. Neil Hefti joined late, after the film was locked, and immediately questioned the wisdom of a traditional Western score. Hefti proposed something darker, modern, almost jazz-like, bongos, brass, dissonant chords that mirrored the story's tension. The studio panicked, fearing audiences wouldn't accept it. Nelson took a gamble, allowing Hefti creative freedom. The result was transformative. The innovative score and confrontational dialogue worked in tandem, amplifying the unease on screen. The music didn't comfort, it unsettled. The confrontations didn't resolve easily, they lingered. Together, they reinforced the anti-racist themes, making the audience feel the weight of prejudice and moral struggle. Hefti and Nelson's risks proved essential. The film wasn't just watched, it was experienced. Every beat, every note, every uncomfortable word pushed viewers to confront brutality, both external and internal, elevating Duel at Diablo above traditional Western fare. Midway through filming, a sandstorm swept across the Moab desert, ripping tents, blinding actors, and threatening to erase entire takes. Winds gusted over 60 miles per hour, whipping sand into every camera lens and forcing the crew to shield equipment with sheer grit. While most directors would have paused production, Ralph Nelson saw opportunity. He instructed cameras to roll, capturing the chaos as part of the film. The result, scenes pulsating with genuine danger, as the storm became a living character, shaping the narrative and visual tone. Language posed another challenge. Swedish actress B.B. Andersson, cast in a pivotal role, struggled with English. Her delivery was hesitant, fragmented, and often silent. Instead of forcing fluency, Nelson embraced it. He rewrote dialogue scene by scene, using her broken speech and moments of silence to amplify her character's isolation and vulnerability. Her struggle became storytelling, revealing fear, confusion, and resilience in subtle ways that scripted words could not. Unexpected obstacles, the weather, the language barrier, transformed into artistic strengths. The actors' visible discomfort, the sand filling their eyes, the stuttered lines, all contributed to a realism rarely achieved in studio westerns. Nelson's approach turned vulnerability into power, chaos into cinematic poetry. The environment and human limitation were no longer hindrances, they were integral to the film's emotional and visual authenticity. Audiences felt the grit, the struggle, and the fragility of survival in every frame. One of the film's most emotionally charged sequences occurs when Ellen Grange returns carrying a half-Apache child, only to face soldiers' cruelty and judgment. The studio reacted instantly, fearing backlash, and pressured Nelson to soften the scene. He refused. To Nelson and Poitier, sanitizing reality would betray the story. They insisted that audiences experience the unvarnished truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Tensions on set escalated. Sydney Poitier, already protective of the film's integrity, walked off when a racial slur was used in rehearsal. Crew members feared production would halt, but Nelson personally intervened, assuring Poitier that every sensitive moment would be treated with care and purpose. Poitier returned, channeling his anger and frustration into the performance. The energy translated directly to screen, heightening the scene's tension and moral weight. The sequence forced both characters and audiences to confront prejudice head-on. Soldiers' cruelty was not staged for shock, it reflected systemic racism embedded in history and culture. Poitier and Nelson's insistence on authenticity ensured that the audience could not look away or rationalize injustice. The discomfort was intentional, transforming a Western trope into a moral confrontation. The film challenged viewers, demanding engagement with difficult truths rather than escapist entertainment. By the time the scene concluded, the emotional resonance lingered, proving that cinematic honesty, even when controversial, could elevate storytelling to an unforgettable level. The combination of fear, injury, and on-set improvisation heightened realism in every frame. Audiences sensed genuine danger, vulnerability, and human effort, making the performances more than acting, they were survival stories captured on camera. Today, it stands as a historically important Western. Its daring choices, confrontations with prejudice, and unflinching realism make it essential viewing. The film's legacy is proof that art's power lies not in safe popularity, but in telling truth with integrity, even when uncomfortable or ignored.